Okay, it is 6 o'clock and I'd like to call the Long Lake Township Board meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Carol.
Henderson.
Here.
Garvin.
Here.
Wagner. Excused. Rosa.
Here.
Maney.
Here.
Schaub.
Here.
Hoffman is here.
Okay. We come to our first public comment, and I would just like to mention that if there's anything on the agenda that you would like to comment about, please do it under public comment. And of course, there is a public comment area under the public hearing for the budget. So there's actually 3 areas tonight. Would anyone like to speak at this time? Okay, we will move on to our consent calendar.
Under consent this evening, we have town board minutes of May 13th regular meeting, May 21st special meetings, treasurer's report dated April 30th, 2014, Brad Traverse County Sheriff's Department, Zoning Department, Planner's report, and Brad Traverse Fire report. Does anyone on the board wish to have any of those removed for further discussion?
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
I'll support.
Moved by Maney, supported by Schaub, to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 5 is approval or amendment to the agenda. I have nothing to add to the agenda tonight. If someone would like to move to approve.
Also move.
Lennerson?
Support.
Support by Maney, to approve the agenda as it is presented tonight. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there anything on the agenda that would be a conflict of interest for any board member this evening? Okay, we will move on to special reports. Commissioner Wheelock is not here, but Captain Brown is here with his report. Thanks, John, for coming tonight.
My pleasure. May, pretty busy. We had 36 runs, 30 medical and 5 fire-related runs and 1 PIA. Again, that's a personal injury accident. Our medical training was patient handling. That's a pretty broad statement. It's lifting, transporting, backboarding, collaring, use of a chair, KED for spine immobilization and confined spaces or cars. It's pretty thorough. Our mandatory fire training this month was ropes, ladders, knots, ventilations. Station 10 hosted this training Saturday the 10th, and we took ladders and trucks with TCAP's permission up to the old Long Lake School and laddered the school, and you have to know the components of the ladder, how to set them up, proper angles, and then of course we have the truck, so we practiced raising and lowering the stick on the truck, and then we all busted out the ropes, and you stand around a circle, you have to tie 4 knots, and lift tools. And then the ventilation, not much you can do except discuss the base of the fire, where you want to ventilate, how, why. It's just basic fire training. We first Thursday, of course, did our gear checks and our SCBA checks, which is normal in our business meeting. And additional trainings of CAF training, compressed air foam. We have a couple of new guys, and I try to do CAF training at least 3 times a year to make sure everyone's up on it. And then we did dump tank operations with drafting. In other words, you take the tank off the tanker, you drop water in the tank, and you draft out of the tank. Because this month we're doing pumper relay training. So you have to have one before you can have the other. So it just all builds on each other. reinforcing the next training. In terms of pub ed, we participated in the Long Lake Elementary School Carnival. We did both static displays, playing tools and equipment and gear. And then we had charged up a line so the kids could knock a cone over with water. It was just fun. It was great. Started off very cold. It was a strange night. When we started off, it was about 45 degrees. No one wanted to play with the water. But somewhere in there, in that 6:30 hour, the temperature went boom, and it jumped up to like 55. And I had all kinds of people lined up ready to play with the water, so it was fun. We had a good time. And then we also participated in the annual Memorial Day ceremony that the township sponsors and puts on and hosts. And, other than that, it was business, answering calls.
And we appreciate your help at that service with
Yeah,
product
that was
and
great.
so on. That always helps.
My pleasure. I enjoy doing it.
Anybody have questions for John?
Oh, just to thank him and all your fellow firemen and their hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to have an addition to the firefighter family, if you will. One of my firefighters just took his wife in. They're expecting a baby girl tonight. So.
Good. That's exciting.
He's been a little scarce lately.
I
can
bet.
imagine. So,
Thank you very much for your
Thanks,
report.
John.
And Traverse County Road Commission, I see Mark come in. We also get a report from the Road Commission that I put monthly in the packet, so just to let you know.
Excellent. I'll just give you a quick update, is that the millage projects are going smoothly, and looks like Elmer's is doing a knockout job for us and our citizens. We will most likely, if the weather holds out, be done by maybe the first week of August with all our millage work, but that doesn't stop. We have a lot of maintenance that we're going to be doing out of our general funds, chip seal roads, crack fill, dura patching, a lot of mowing. Last year, our tractors were mostly in the barn in the repair shop because they were really poor quality equipment. We have new tractors, so we're anxious to get those out and see how they perform. With that, we've got some state monies coming in too for some special projects, and one I will let you know and the public know is that we will be doing quite a bit of work at the intersection of South Airport Road and Cass, from just about 100 feet from Veterans Drive east, all the way down the hill, both sides, all the way through about to the railroad tracks, about 100 feet south on Cass, and all the way up to the city line on Cass. So that's a very busy intersection, a lot of traffic and movement, and I understand that the road's going to be open, signal lanes going both directions, but avoid South Airport Road, that intersection, for the next 3 weeks or so as that takes place. For those of you who haven't been out on South Long Lake Road, it looks awesome. They still have work to do. I believe there's still some gravel coming in to shore up the sides and some other work. So, but all in all, it's looking really good. And that's all I have to say about that right now.
West Long Lake Road looks really good, and it's nice to see that.
Yeah, I wasn't
Like-
safe there for a while. I
No,
really think it
It's
wasn't
really,
safe.
yeah, it's very nice.
There'll be some gravel along there on West Long Lake Road then where, right
It's-
now, there's quite a drop.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll work on that. Now, they went back, Carol, and they took the machine and they cut back some high areas so that the water would drain off. But then we come back in and we're gonna have to do some graveling and running the equipment down to pack it in, because good shoulders like that also give stability to the road, especially the road edge, especially winter. We lose a lot of that gravel in the winter months, but that has to be put back down. So it's not finished yet,
Okay.
but it looks pretty good.
Pete?
The new stop sign's going up on the corner of Secor and Bass Lake
I
and East
knew that they
Falmouth.
were going to install it. We'll see if
They're
that.
working on it today, so.
If that helps, or if we need to do further. Thanks.
And that was one thing I wanted to ask, the rumble strips that we had talked about, do they do the stop signs first and try them, but if that doesn't work, is the rumble strip the second?
Yeah, I think so.
Phase.
You know, and the question is, do they do the cut-in or, you know, into
Do
the
they do the
pavement? Or do
raised?
they do the raised and there's some costs and stuff.
And we may have to, you know, stand some cost for that. But they were going, my understanding was they were going to try the stop sign and so on first and see if that
Are
helps.
are flashers an option as
Well-
opposed to rumble strips or no?
You know,
Yeah.
thank you for asking that question, Trish, because actually I was gonna comment. I was out of the state a little over a week ago, and one of the things that I noticed in this other state was that they had stop signs that, you know, were right out in the open, but because of all the commotion in the intersection, you didn't see them real well. But what they did is they put LED lights all the way around,
The stops.
and then they had a solar panel on the top, and those things flashed like a repeater.
Oh.
And I'll tell you what, I haven't seen that before. I saw it in Wisconsin, and we haven't had our board meeting yet, but
That
I'm
sounds
really curious as to what the
interesting.
cost is on those.
Right.
But those were in the county, those were not Wisconsin Department of Transportation signs, those were in the county of which I was at. So I know, and I'm gonna have reason and opportunity to contact them, find out where they got them, what the cost is, and if we might be able to incorporate that in. I mean, even in broad daylight,
Yeah.
you're gonna see that. So I think it's a fairly decent fix, and if it's allowable with this MDOT, then we'd have to look at the cost, but I think it's something would save lives.
Keep us posted on that,
Yeah,
because that
I
might be
will.
an option.
Just
Sure.
see something.
Ohio has those.
Yeah, Ohio, yeah, I had heard, but I haven't seen it in Ohio, so.
All right, thank you for your report. Our second public comment. Anyone like to speak at this time? Okay, we will move on to our pending business. I think you knew that we had received some grant monies for, to do some engineering work on a new parking area down in Crescent Shores and also the boat launch. And in order to go further and continue with this, they have asked us to sign the agreement and pass a resolution of support for, that we are willing to pay the half, which is half the match of the grant of $20,875. They will pay the other half to go forward with this. Leslie has already started work on the RFPs to get those going because there is a time frame of this. So I included this in your packet of information. Did anyone have questions on it? I think it's probably pretty straightforward from the DNR that they send these out. Questions that I might be able to answer or. Okay, we do have a resolution number at the top of.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution number 06-13/14-7.
I'll support.
It's been, okay, the motion was made by Mamie, supported by Sean. Any further discussion?
This is called the resolution, and then there's also the agreement for the insurance study. You
Right.
need authorization to sign that. Do you want those done separately, or?
But it doesn't look like I signed the agreement. Does that go, that goes with the resolution, I'm assuming? There was just a dated area, but I don't see a
Okay, was
signature
the
page.
date, the date?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just the resolution. And we will need to do that by a roll call vote.
Garvin,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Schaub,
Yes.
Maney,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. I will get that signed and get that on its way. Under new business, we have a proposed easement agreement for Lake Drive. And as I was explaining to Peter just before the meeting started, the reason we're on this easement agreement is because Lake Drive encroaches somewhat on the real property that we purchased not too long ago. And it's been like that, the road was put in, it's been like that well, the plat was done in 1941. The other part of this, for the 3 parcels that are at the south end of Lake Drive, and we have a representative here tonight regarding one of those, they have never had legal access over Lake Drive to get to their property because this was not part of the plat at the time. But they've always used Lake Drive to get to their property. But this just clarifies it, it gives them legal access, because if you remember when we purchased the real property, when they sold the lake lot, they did not have legal access, and they put in an easement across the property that we purchased to get, so they had legal access until this could be straightened out. So the people at the very end are the News, the Entawaiso, and the Eddies that purchased the real property on the lake. So this gives them the legal access, along with, we just have to sign the agreement that we're okay with them crossing Lake Drive to get to their properties, and then we'll be crossing the 3 at the end under their easements to get to the very last one, which I believe is the News. So that's what this is about. I had Jim review this, talked to Mr. Ford, clarifying a couple of things, and Jim was comfortable with it. I did not attach to you the signing pages because I didn't think it was necessary. If you need further clarification, I believe I also included the survey that was done when the Reals were wanting to sell that property, that one right there. And it shows the 3 parcels at the very end, at south end, that Lake Drive stops, and it does not show an easement across that property. So this would allow them easement. Plus, I also gave you a copy of the survey that the Reals did that shows the encroachment somewhat on to the property that we purchased, and it's just a little piece right along the edge of Lake Drive. So, any questions?
This agreement was just sent to everybody that has property on Lake Drive.
Right, because
so
they
we're
all
not the
have
only
to
ones.
agree
It's
to
everybody.
allow these people access across that. And what you will be doing tonight, if it's okay with you, you will be giving me permission to sign for the township that we do not have a problem with that agreement. So, we'll certainly clarify things because it's been that way for many, many years, and I'm sure the 3 parcels at the end will be happy to have finally have legal access to their property.
I'll make a motion to accept the Lake Drive easement agreement.
And give me permission
To give you permission
to sign for the township.
Support.
Mamie and John, is that you?
John.
John, okay, sorry about
The
that.
guy way on the end.
The guy way on the end supported it, which was Leonard's son. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Item B is the application for the fireworks display, which Mr. Barnes puts on, and he calls it Nemo's Entertainment. Everything I had, I gave to you at the time. I do also now have the information from the fire department that they have approved according to the fire code, what they are going to be doing. And a little bit of a change this year, the DNR permit usually came before our approval. They've switched that around, so they want an approval from the township, send that to the DNR before they approve it. So that's something different this year. That's why I sent the letter to them, because I knew they would not have this 30 days prior to July 4th, which is when it is slated for the fireworks display, and July 5th is the rain date. But I do not have the insurance agreement yet with Mr. Barnes. We've had some discussions about that. He is not really in favor of doing what we did last year as far as naming us insured. And I just got an email from Jim today saying it's important that we continue the way we did last year. So I will have to call him and tell him that he will need to come forward with that, us being named insured. The city does that. They would not do fireworks without that. And so I'm assuming that that's the direction you want me to go. If you give me permission to sign this once I get that in my hand, this is the only thing that's lacking according to my check sheet. Because we'll be meeting again to approve our budget, but it's gonna be right down to the wire again.
Right.
And the DNR has to approve it after we approve it, so, if maybe you could do that, and it would be the same document that we had last year naming us the insured, and that's what he's not wanting to do again this year. He feels that he has the $6 million policy and that, or umbrella, and that should cover it, but Jim
Well,
is
and-
again saying that it's very important that we
Yeah,
have
the issue
this.
is that our ordinance states
And
he
our
has
ordinance
to
states
have that, so unless we
But
change
even
our
if-
ordinance, he has to have it.
And even if it didn't, Jim is saying it really
Needs to be
needs to be that way, so I'm not going to second guess that at all.
It's prudent. No.
I don't see how we can move forward without that, so
No.
if, once we get that, yeah, I would have no problem.
Do you want to give me permission once I get it? I mean, if I get it tomorrow, I can send this stuff
Sure.
off. I mean, if
Make
that
a
would
motion
be
contingent on that.
Yeah.
contingent upon
Okay.
it, that's, if that's okay with the
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
that's.
I think that would be a good way to go, and they got everything else, so.
But I would like that in the form
Okay.
of a motion.
I'd like to make a motion then to accept it with the contingent of the proof of insurance and us as the
Named insured,
named insured.
okay? Schwab,
I'll second it.
Garvin? Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I will call him tomorrow and tell him that that's what he needs to do. Okay. We are down to the public hearing on the proposed budget. And if you didn't get a copy, they are on the table there. Okay, I will open the public hearing on the proposed budget. It's still in draft form at 6:22 this evening. This will be our proposed 2014-2015 budget. It is still in draft form and will not be adopted tonight. What we do is take comments and concerns from the public before we adopt that at a later date. And that's been the procedure for many years, and we continue to do it that way. Again, our budget year is from July 1, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. The public hearing has been properly published in the Traverse City Record Eagle on June 1st, 2014. So it's pretty spelled out on the front page as to the pages, but our revenues are pages 1 through 4. And we have a revenue amount of $1,385,436. And the second section is our expenditures, which are on page 5 through 36. And the expenditures are as well $1,385,436. In our budget this year, we propose a 2% wage increase. We have good conscientious employees who do a good job and represent our township very well. We continue to increase residents, and state requirements continue to be added to reflect our jobs. And we have not added additional staff for a long time. The expenditures, or the following pages are our special funds, and they are pages 37 through 50. And they are separate, like I say, separate funds. The last two pages are our meeting schedule of all the boards and the holiday schedule. So with that said, I will open it up for public comments on the budget tonight. And I'll try to answer your questions.
Well, I have some
Yeah.
comments.
Sure.
You'd be disappointed if I didn't.
That's okay.
But I took quite a bit of time and went through the entire budget. And it's extensive. The detail is there, some of the detail is there, but there's a lot of mystery in it, for me anyway. And I'm just a layperson
Sure.
looking casually on at this. But from what I can see, the budget request is $1,385,000. And if I annualize the spending on the budget through May of this year, the spending this year, 13 and 14, comes to just under $1 million. Now, there's another number in there, and I don't have that number right handy, but the increase from that other number, the forecast year-end, is about 2.4%. And the data that I get on inflation looks like about 1.6%. Now, that also refers to your salary increases, which are 2% more than the inflation that we're experiencing, or at least documented inflation, and certainly more than some of the retirees from the private sector are seeing in the way of increases. But nevertheless, that's it. But more critical to me is the fact that the budget that's proposed or requested increases from a real $1 million, let's say, to $1,385,000. That's about a $400,000 increase, and almost 40%. Now, I'm sure there's some explanations for the discrepancy there. I'm not going to go line by line through it, but I have a lot of questions in that budget, but I'll spare you that. But I guess in general, there are a lot of estimates for spending, line estimates for spending that don't compare to historical spending, either this year or previous year, or years, because I have some old budgets, I went back and they don't even compare, but still in all, they're being requested for next year. One troubling one, and I'm glad Chief Brown is here, but there are two estimates in there for the fireboat and for equipment in the fire department. A fairly substantial estimate for this current year, and then another that wasn't spent, and then another one for next year. And I think there was one in the previous year that wasn't spent. And this is supposedly for maintenance on equipment, and I surely hope the maintenance on the fire equipment is being done, I trust that it is, at a lower level. But the lack of spending there is a bit alarming to me. Maybe there's a reason for that. The biggest increase, and no surprise, is in the Parks and Rec budget. And that has gone from $62,000 in 2012 and 13 to a proposed $216,000 in 14 and 15. Or 250%. And that's not counting the Long Lake Road improvements that are being, that's mentioned in the back of the budget. Obviously, that spending, a lot of that spending is due to the timbers or proposed timbers acquisition. I presume it is anyway, but that's not a line item in the budget. And I would hope that as time goes by, that we put timbers in. I've asked for a separate budget for the timbers a couple of times. I hope that is forthcoming. It would be nice to see at least a 5-year expenditure plan and hopefully a 10. But I'm presuming that Parks and Rec budget is in the, includes timbers in the 16 or some for timbers. And I hope that goes into a separate line item in future budgeting and accounting.
Would you like me to answer some of the parks questions while we're on?
Sure.
Okay. We did add some line items in the parks budget under capital outlay grants. That is a grant that we have written for the parking at Tucker Road off of Cedar Run Creek.
Okay.
And so part of that is our match of that expenditure. In capital outlay, which is not capital outlay grants, but capital outlay at the bottom, which we added 100,000. We're going to hopefully put some additional parking over by the duplex to take care of the problem that we are having out here. So there's a figure in there for that. We are also hoping to pave Manhattan parking in the back to get more cars back there for parking as well. So those are two big items that we have plugged in as projects this year. I also put a little bit in there for timber signage and the trailhead parking, and I heard Matt say the other day that there should be monies already in their budget for that, so we may not have to expend that. The other, under parks, under consultation and other, is our Crescent Shores match for that grant. So that's one of the reasons that has increased.
Okay, well, those are some important reasons
Sure.
for that hefty increase, but those are one-time expenditures.
Sure, but it reflects this year.
Non-recurring.
Right.
Incidentally, the duplex revenue, is that included in your township revenue?
It's in the back sheet.
I know, I
No.
saw it in there.
No.
But you don't roll that into township revenue. Why is that?
Because it's a separate,
But
It's a
fund.
separate
It's an
fund, it's
enterprise
kept
fund.
separate,
It needs-
and that's
it's a-
why it's at the back.
It's an
It's not in the
enterprise.
general
Okay.
fund, it's an enterprise.
We have to keep that separate.
All right, I don't know why that couldn't be rolled in there. I mean, it's part of the revenue for the township.
The auditors is the ones that we follow. We follow their rules.
All right, I understand. Okay, I guess most critically, at least from my standpoint, is that looking at the back of the budget, the total fund balance will be, or shows to be, about $1.75 million. And versus the proposed budget, that's a 24% actually, more than the annual budget. That is a huge chunk of cash. As I recall, maybe the MTA has changed their suggestion, but they suggest townships keep about 30% of the township budget in cash balance. This is 124% of the annual budget that would seem to be substantial. And that does not include some of the reserves that are set up for special purposes. And you could probably get to close to $2 million in cash in the township coffers in nice round numbers versus what seems to be about $1 million in expenditures.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
The fund balance that you're looking at in the back, Bob, is everything. It's
Uh-huh.
all of our assets, it's all of our money, it's everything.
Uh-huh.
So it's not extra money.
Well,
The
how
fund
much is
balance is
cash?
everything.
How much is
We have
cash that's
earmarked-
in investment accounts?
Right now, I have about 40 to 50% of our annual budget in unreserved money.
And the rest is assets like
And the
this
rest is all
building?
assets and
Earmarked funds.
earmarked monies and our cash in the bank to pay bills. I mean, it's everything. The fund balance is everything, is included in that fund balance figure. It's not like our budget is 1.3 and then fund balance is another $1.75 million. That budget is part of the fund balance. It's everything, the fund balance amount. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, my understanding of the accounting procedures is lacking here. But there is a substantial cash
We've got-
balance with the reserve funds and others, were they to be added in to account for the township assets.
Right now, because of paying off the bonds, we
Yeah.
will have about 40% of our annual budget available as unassigned money, which is to fall back on. If something happened, we would have about 40% of our annual revenue, or expenditures, I should say, as fallback money, as unreserved.
Well, it's not as alarming as I
Yeah.
thought. I thought you were competing with the intermediate school district with
We had a little bit more than
35 million in
that.
hand.
We had a little bit more than that we had put aside, that we had built up a little bit, so we put it aside for the, and I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but the bond payoff that we're doing.
Yeah, well, you've been working on that for the last couple of years.
Right,
And-
but now we're gonna be able to do that and that money
I
will be
think that's,
gone.
has been a good strategy. But I'm alarmed, I continue to be alarmed at the size of the budget and the way the budget is assembled in terms of some of these line accounts that just keep accumulating year after year and the spending doesn't occur, but the money just keeps, when you provide for it anyway.
But you realize this is estimated, I mean, a budget is estimated amount. We don't probably ever spend everything that we estimate, but we have to, estimate an amount that we think there may be something come up that we don't have down here that we have to come up with. But, we don't know all
Well,
of that
there's a
right now.
contingency fund in there for that too, Karen.
There is contingency
Yeah.
for certain things, yes.
Yeah. It seems to me, in the budgeting that I have some experience with, that we tended to budget realistically for what we could accurately or predict that we would spend. And generally, that was hammered out fairly closely, and barring some catastrophe, maybe good luck in terms of in some respects. It usually came out pretty close to what was forecast. But I guess that's about what I had intended to say. I look at the increases that are in budgets that are being spent all over, not just in this township, but every level of government and our institutions, and I have no idea where it's going to come from, because being an old retired geezer on a private sector income, it really puts the squeeze on. And that's why I at least make some comments about it. And
Sure.
I would like to see if, when you complete your budget reconciliation, a public document stating what the real budget numbers are, and then maybe some additional line items to provide some more detail on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Peter?
This is me speaking personally, not on behalf of the All Lake Association. One thing, I guess my comment would be as to form. You got expenditures on pages 5 through 36, but if you're not familiar with this document, it's hard to go in there and find what you're looking for, or not necessarily looking for, just to scan it to find something you're looking for. And couldn't we not have an index of these expenditures, of each type of expenditure by page, so that when you're, there might be certain things that are more interest to a particular person in the budget than other things, but it's hard to find them, because you got 31 pages or 30 so pages to go through in order to find these different expenditures.
You're talking about taking a line item like supplies and
No,
what
listing
what
each
that
part.
is.
What I was thinking was maybe like a second page, entitled expenditures, and then showing page 5 as this type of expenditure. page
Listing
6
by department? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
whatever, is that what you call it, department?
Yeah.
The different items under the expenditures?
Well,
I'd
So
agree
like
with
go
that.
to
It's-
page
it's-
5 to find out about the treasurer's department.
Yeah, it is pretty confusing to just look through here and try and find that.
Okay.
So that's just a
Okay.
practical thing.
I guess that's probably, I could understand where you're coming from. This has been kind of a growing, continuing document over time.
I'm sure it has, yeah.
And through 3 or 4 different auditors.
Mhm.
So this is what we're working with, that that they're comfortable with, and they're giving us advice whether we need any more line items.
Well,
And I understand if you're viewing it for the first time, it's maybe a
well,
little.
for an auditor, it might be great, but for a layperson looking at this thing, it's very not confusing, but it's hard to find, figure out what's what, you know, because it's not,
Sure.
you can't refer to a page, okay, parks is what page, you know? I don't even know what, I tried finding parks when he was talking about it, and I couldn't even find it in there. I mean, I'm sure it's in there,
So
just,
just
but.
each department listed on what page the
Yeah.
information for that
Yeah,
department
that
is
wouldn't be
on.
hard to do, just to be another index is all.
Sure.
And the second comment I would have is, you know, the 2% increase in salaries for staff. You know, I can't say that's correct or incorrect, but I hope that when you're making these, giving these raises, that you're looking at what the private sector is paying for similar type services. And that we know that just because we're government and we have this here fund over here that we can dip into to pay salaries, that we don't do it just automatically, that there's some relationship between raises and what the private sector, or not necessarily the private sector, but what the other people are getting paid for similar services. So
When we have our budget meeting over here, these girls do an excellent job of getting everybody else's around
Good,
here.
and
And the
that
private
sounds
sector,
good. That's reassuring,
just
too,
like
yeah.
people like me,
They
I'm not
are
here all the
private
time.
sector.
Yeah.
And they give us a book this thick, you wanna come and read it, so different places,
Mm-hmm.
different people working in the private sector
Right.
too, where I'm at from out there too. So the girls do an excellent job
Mm-hmm.
of getting us a lot of information. We just don't go off top of
No,
get
I
it off the
wasn't-
roof and pick a
wasn't being
number out.
critical. I was hoping
Yeah.
that that's the
But-
approach they were taking.
I'm
Well,
just
there's-
telling you, that's what we're doing.
There's 3 board members that are out in that
Okay.
workforce, so that brings us all together trying to figure this out.
I mean, I think that's, you know, you guys do a great job as far as I'm concerned. So.
Thanks.
And also, if you want to keep a good staff, which we've been able to keep, you got to pay them.
Oh, no, I'm a firm believer in that, don't get me wrong, John.
You know, I mean, we're not paying them a lot, they don't make a lot
Yeah,
of money.
yeah. I mean, I don't,
But they're loyal.
I'm not making a criticism of
Sure.
anybody's raise
Yeah.
or anybody's salary level. I'm just saying there should be some relationship to the private sector. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, we do look into that.
Yeah, we try to, they do an excellent job, like I said, get a lot of paperwork for us, and there's things about this thick you gotta read and see different, you know, Green Lake, I don't care who you wanna talk about, you know what I mean, and then private sector too, so they do get us a lot of information, it's not like a number we pull out of that roof.
And I personally believe, yeah, if you got somebody that's performing above and beyond, yeah, it's worth it to pay them more, and keep them, you know, so, yeah. I don't
Well,
have
and
a
I
problem
think
with
we
that.
look at the history too, because we went 4 years with no raise.
Sure.
And so you have to take that into consideration.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
4
Yeah.
years, and the 1 year, the cost of living was 4.6%. So they got nothing for that. So we try to balance that
Sure.
too, you know, to take that into consideration. And I know this 2% is slightly above the cost of living this year, but it was, you know,
Mhm.
kind of with that idea to balance things just
That's a
a
good
little bit,
explanation.
that we did just slightly over the cost of living, but we were using the cost of living as our model.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just sort of off
Please.
of,
Could we have your name?
oh, I'm sorry, my name's Matt Lundy.
Matt Lundy?
Yes. I just want to make a comment off of the gentleman's first comment there on the index. One thing I noticed going through the expenditures is there isn't a title at the top of each page stating what department it is. It's more like down here. So it could be kind of confusing for somebody that isn't necessarily an accountant, but that is interested in the budget to really understand what's going on here. So again, just like sort of a suggestion might be to, where it says budget worksheet, to maybe have like what is actually going on the page. Again, just to sort of make things a little more clear for somebody that doesn't understand accounting.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
Currently, with the software that we're using, this is how we can use it. I don't think that there's a particular option in the budget area to move that. I can ask, but I'm pretty sure there isn't. I think we've
Okay,
tried
I'm-
to do that before.
Yeah.
Can you give me a page that you're referring to?
Yeah, sure. I think page 616 might be, is the one that I was just looking at. On the top, it says budget worksheet. It says page 16 and it gives the date and the time, but it doesn't really get down to what it's talking about, which is of course the cemetery, until the third line of the actual spreadsheet. And like I said, when I just first picked it up, it just seemed like it could be a little bit confusing for somebody, and I guess we could say not user friendly for somebody that was just trying to find something and
Sure.
possibly a little bit frustrating. I'm just, like I said, I'm just making an observation here.
We can check into that. I'm not sure if we can fix that. but-
Okay.
Well, and as far as the software goes, I don't think you can change that, but maybe the solution would be in the indexing that we do.
Right.
Say, Department 276 Cemetery.
Yeah, I
page
think that
16.
could help a lot.
That way you would know what you were looking for.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I'd just like to say, anytime there's things in here you don't understand, you can always stop.
Right.
They'll try to explain the best they can, and answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else? If not, we will close the public hearing at 6:46, does it look like? And we will review the comments and get back together before the end of, or before July 1 to approve the budget. And if there's any other thing that you see in there that I have missed or needs to be addressed, I have one little sticky note here, so get with me before I get the final draft, or final thing put together.
So I thank all the office people for doing this budget thing too. I know it's a lot of work, but
You're
girls
welcome.
out there,
That's
excellent
part of
job.
the, part of
Have you
the
read it?
job.
You know?
Thank you. Okay, item 12 is our current budget status. I know you were going to run a budget status,
We
are we
don't need to
okay?
make any
No
amendments. There might be
amendments.
some at the next meeting.
Okay, so we will move on to payment of bills, and the first one is the check register report, which is the yellow sheet.
It covers checks 32142 through 32155. It totals $18,031.59. Those are all pretty straightforward. Does anyone on the board have any questions? We had 4 boat ramp slabs redone.
Are there
Two
Crescent-
redone and 2 extra.
We have 2 extra.
at Crescent Shores?
Yes, I'm sorry,
At
yes, at
Crescent.
Crescent Shores, and hopefully that'll take us through part of the summer without any further,
Yeah.
before we get a real plan together.
Yeah.
It was bad again, so
Yeah.
Well,
hopefully.
the ice
Push
creates
up.
the havoc, you know, how it does, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the check register report
Sean,
for the checks 32142 through 32155 for the amount of $18,031.59.
I'll support that.
Lenderson supports. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Litterson,
Yes.
Maney,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Garvin.
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes. And then we have vendor approval summary, and it covers checks 32156 through 32199 for $24,878.49. Are there questions on that? Included in that is the balance of the payment for our new township sign out here, and if you haven't taken notice, that was put in recently. We think it looks pretty good.
Have we heard anything back?
Carol, were we getting a sign for the park down by us?
Yes.
Is that why it's gone?
I'm sorry.
Sign,
Yeah,
okay.
it was, it fell apart.
It did?
Completely fell apart, and we're, have one on order, and it's going to be a new material.
Composite, like material,
Composite.
yeah.
That the Conservancy uses, so it should last much longer.
And I just sent an email today asking for an update. That was a month ago.
Yeah, that we
He
ordered.
said, Nate said that he would let me know when he came in, so, and I haven't heard anything.
Well, I saw it missing, and I figured it was being replaced or made, done some.
Dwayne asked if we had heard
maintenance
from
on
the
it.
insurance
Sure.
company on the sign out here. Were they
We have not.
covering any part of that?
We have not.
Maybe that's something we could check.
We turned it in, but,
You did, haven't heard?
yes, we did turn it in.
And then
Yeah,
I
it was
seen,
turned
what was that?
And we paid half up front.
Yeah.
versus the
Yeah,
other
I
half.
remember that, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We had to have a whole bunch of trees taken down,
The ash trees?
the ash trees,
23, was it?
23.
So, and we've missed a couple, because there's still a couple, I
Back
think, on
here.
the back.
We were having an inventory done, a tree inventory, in our parks and cemetery, so that hopefully we'd be as proactive as we could be.
It's too bad our county gentleman
I
ran
was
away,
gonna
but we
say,
got one
we
right
should
down
have
there.
asked about that one.
That's
I am
theirs.
so worried about that.
On each side of the road, there's one on that side too
Yeah.
that's dead.
I have emailed them several times, so.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the vendor approval summary report?
I'll make a motion for to approve the vendor approval summary report, checks number 32,156 through 32,199, of total $24,878.49.
Garvin?
Support.
Emerson supports. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Maney,
Yes.
Shab,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes,
Garvin.
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
the motion is carried.
Madam Chairman, I would like to say one thing before we
Oh, okay.
close our meeting. We get to sit here and talk about budgets and complain about budgets. We have the freedom to come here. And last week, we celebrated D-Day. And there was a lot of guys that give their life, not only from this country, but the allies that help. And we wouldn't be sitting here having this freedom. And I think sometimes we forget these freedoms and who paid so that we could have them and sit here today.
Amen.
That's all.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah.
And luckily, hopefully, this fall, I'm gonna be able to go to Normandy. Been saving my coins and visit the cemetery there, just to see.
I've been there, it's a great opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
I found out in 2005 that my dad was injured on Normandy Beach. Gunshot.
Well, interesting.
Never, ever talked about it, ever, never.
Yeah.
Didn't find
They
out
don't.
until about 15 years after he died.
Wow.
Holds new meaning for me.
Thanks, John, for the comments.
You're
And
welcome.
we are adjourned at 6:53. Yeah. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.